Many people want success, but few are ready to pay its price. This truth is uncomfortable, and that is why most people avoid it. From the outside, success often looks simple. A good life, respect, stability, freedom. But what people rarely see is the weight carried quietly every single day before those things arrive. In a small town surrounded by low hills and dusty roads, there lived a young man named Noah. The town was calm, almost frozen in time. Shops opened late. Streets emptied early. Life moved slowly, but struggles did not. Noah did not grow up with comfort. The family lived in a narrow house with thin walls and worn furniture. The father worked long hours doing physical labor. The mother took small jobs whenever possible. Money was never enough, and silence often filled the home more than laughter. From a young age, Noah understood responsibility. Not because someone explained it, but because life forced it. Every morning, Noah woke up before sunrise. Not to chase dreams, but to help the family survive. Small tasks, heavy thoughts, invisible pressure. While others talked about the future with excitement, Noah carried it with worry. Yet inside, there was a dream that refused to die. Noah dreamed of building something meaningful. Not just money, not just comfort, but a life where the family no longer lived in fear of the next bill or the next bad season. A life where effort led somewhere. A life where sacrifice had a purpose. But dreams alone did not make life easier. At night, Noah often sat outside, looking at the dark sky. The stars felt close, yet unreachable. Questions filled the mind. Where do I start? What if I fail? What if I never escape this cycle? Hope whispered softly, but reality answered loudly. People around Noah loved to talk about success. Some spoke about luck. Others spoke about talent. A few spoke about motivation. But no one talked about the cost paid quietly, daily, without applause. That was the invisible pressure Noah carried. Wanting something felt easy. Everyone wanted more. Everyone wanted better. But carrying that desire through exhaustion, doubt, and slow days was different. Carrying it when progress was invisible. Carrying it when nothing seemed to change. Noah felt that weight. There were moments when giving up felt reasonable. Moments when resting forever sounded tempting. Moments when dreams felt like a luxury meant for someone else. But even then, something deeper refused to let go. Not hope, but responsibility. Responsibility to the family. Responsibility to the future. Responsibility to self-respect. This was the first lesson Noah did not yet understand fully. Dreams cost more than hope. They demand endurance. They demand patience. They demand action long before results appear. Wanting something is easy. Carrying it every day is hard. And this is where the real story begins. The turning point did not arrive with a loud announcement. It arrived quietly, hidden inside something small. One morning, as Noah walked through the town, a simple pattern caught the eye. Every day, people complained about the same thing. Fresh food was expensive. Supplies came from far away. Small needs were ignored because no one thought they were worth the effort. To most people, it was just another inconvenience. To Noah, it looked like a narrow opening. The opportunity was not big. It was not impressive. It would not make anyone rich overnight. But it was real. Noah decided to try. The first step was the hardest, not because it required skill, but because it required humility. Noah approached a local supplier, an older man known for being cautious and blunt. The man had seen many young people talk about dreams and disappear days later. Noah did not ask for charity. Noah asked for a chance. The response was cold. The questions were sharp. Why should trust be given? Why should effort be believed before results? Words were easy. Promises were cheap. The man did not reject Noah immediately, but the doubt was clear. Instead of explaining dreams, Noah accepted a test. The work was simple and exhausting. Carrying, cleaning, delivering, repeating. No applause. No praise. Just effort exchanged for opportunity. The body ached. Hands grew sore. Days blended together. Each morning began before sunrise. Each evening ended with fatigue. There were moments when pride felt bruised. Moments when the work felt too small for the dream carried inside. But Noah stayed silent and continued. That was the first price. Not money. Not talent. Humility. Opportunity did not ask who Noah wanted to become. Opportunity asked who Noah was willing to be today. Doubt followed closely. Some people watched with quiet judgment. Others smiled politely, expecting the effort to fade. A few whispered that the work was pointless. The town had seen many start and few continue. But Noah returned every day. Rain did not stop the work. Cold did not excuse absence. Tiredness did not earn rest. Progress was slow and often invisible. The reward was not immediate. But something else began to grow. Consistency. The older man noticed first. Not because of words, but because of presence. Noah showed up when it was uncomfortable. Noah stayed when the work was repetitive. Noah listened instead of arguing. Slowly, trust replaced suspicion. The work became heavier. The responsibility increased. Mistakes happened. Corrections followed. Lessons were learned the hard way. Time was paid. Energy was spent. Patience was tested daily. Some nights, Noah returned home barely able to stand. The family noticed the exhaustion. The body carried the cost. But something inside felt different. Not excitement. Not motivation. Something steadier. Commitment. This was not the success imagined in dreams. This was not the life shown in stories. This was the part most people never see. The part where progress hides behind repetition. The part where effort feels ordinary and unrecognized. But this was the foundation. Opportunity did not respond to hope. It responded to reliability. It responded to action repeated without applause. It responded to someone willing to pay the price before the reward appeared. And slowly, without announcement, the door opened a little wider. Opportunity doesn't ask for words. It asks for consistency. As the days passed, something inside Noah began to shift. The work was no longer just about surviving or proving reliability. A deeper realization surfaced. If progress was the goal, repetition alone would not be enough. Growth required learning, and learning would demand a new price. Noah wanted to move beyond basic tasks. Carrying and delivering built discipline, but it did not build mastery. The next step required understanding how things worked, why mistakes happened, and how small improvements created better results. That step felt intimidating. Learning exposed weakness. The first attempts were clumsy. Simple processes went wrong. Timing was off. Decisions were rushed. Results were inconsistent. Each mistake felt heavy, not because of failure itself, but because effort had already been invested. The mind began to whisper doubts. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this is beyond my ability. Maybe others succeed because they are smarter. Mistakes arrived daily. Some were small and fixable. Others were costly and embarrassing. The body felt tired. The mind felt slower. Progress felt uncertain. For the first time, Noah questioned not the dream, but personal capacity. This was the most dangerous moment. Quitting now would feel logical. Excuses would sound reasonable. Many people left at this stage, telling themselves the story was not meant for them. But something stopped Noah from walking away. A quiet voice reminded, "No one pays for growth in comfort." The guide noticed the struggle. The older man had watched many before. People who admired results but avoided process. People who loved success but hated learning. One evening, after another failed attempt, the guide spoke calmly. If it were easy, everyone would succeed. The words carried no judgment, only truth. The guide explained that skill does not appear because of desire. It appears through repetition, correction, and patience. Knowledge costs time. Skill costs patience. Growth costs discomfort. There was no shortcut. There never was. From that moment, Noah changed approach. Mistakes were no longer enemies. Mistakes became information. Each failure pointed toward adjustment. Each correction built understanding. The learning was slow, uncomfortable, and humbling. Progress was uneven. Some days felt like steps backward. But the effort continued. Hands grew stronger. Movements became more precise. Awareness sharpened. Confidence began to form quietly, without celebration. Not the loud confidence of success, but the quiet confidence of competence. Pain remained present. Muscles ached. Sleep shortened. Doubt visited often. But discipline kept the work moving forward. Noah no longer waited for motivation. Action became routine. The guide challenged harder tasks. Expectations increased. Responsibility grew heavier. The learning curve steepened. Pressure tested focus. But Noah stayed. There were nights when exhaustion spoke louder than ambition. Nights when quitting felt peaceful. But each morning, the decision repeated. Stand up. Try again. Learn again. This was the real payment. Not money. Not praise. Time. Patience. Discomfort. Slowly, improvement became visible. Not dramatic, but undeniable. Processes flowed smoother. Errors decreased. Trust deepened. The guide began stepping back, allowing more independence. Growth did not arrive as a reward. Growth arrived as a consequence. The lesson became clear. Knowledge costs time. Skill costs patience. Growth costs discomfort. And those unwilling to pay never reach the outcome they desire. Noah was still far from the dream. But now, something more valuable had formed. The ability to endure learning. The strength to stay when it was painful. The discipline to continue without guarantee. This was no longer just effort. This was transformation in progress. Just when everything began to feel stable, life introduced a test that no amount of planning could prevent. The progress Noah had worked so hard for did not disappear suddenly, but it became fragile. A new competitor entered the town, offering similar services with more resources, faster delivery, and louder promises. Customers grew curious. Attention shifted. The steady rhythm Noah had built was interrupted. At the same time, an unexpected loss followed. Equipment failed. Supplies were delayed. Costs increased. What once felt manageable now felt overwhelming. The margin for error vanished. One mistake could undo months of effort. Fear returned, but this time it was sharper, heavier, and more dangerous. There was a moment when everything stood on the edge. Income dropped. Confidence wavered. The future felt uncertain again. It would have been easy to step back, to complain, to explain why circumstances were unfair. Excuses lined up, ready to protect pride. But something had changed. Noah did not run. Instead of retreating, Noah leaned forward. Problems were faced directly. Numbers were reviewed honestly. Weaknesses were acknowledged without denial. Where improvement was possible, effort increased. Where learning was required, questions were asked. The response was not dramatic. It was disciplined. People noticed. Not because of marketing. Not because of noise. But because effort remained visible even under pressure. Noah continued showing up. Continued working longer hours. Continued serving with care. Continued improving small details that others ignored. When challenges were spoken about, they were not framed as complaints. They were framed as responsibilities. When help was needed, it was requested without entitlement. When mistakes occurred, they were owned without excuses. This attitude changed everything. Slowly, the community began to respond. A customer offered advice. Another recommended a solution. Someone else provided temporary support. Small gestures appeared, not out of pity, but out of respect. People support effort, not excuses. The competition remained. The pressure did not vanish. But something stronger emerged: trust. The town began to see Noah not as someone chasing success, but as someone committed to growth. That difference mattered. There were still setbacks. Not every problem was solved immediately. Progress remained uneven. Some days felt heavier than others. But quitting was no longer an option considered seriously. The habit of persistence had already formed. This phase reshaped understanding. Success was not a straight line upward. It was a path filled with setbacks, pauses, and corrections. Stability was temporary. Growth required adaptation. Commitment was tested not during excitement, but during difficulty. Noah realized that resilience was not about confidence. It was about consistency under pressure. The ability to continue when results slowed. The willingness to adjust without abandoning purpose. The major setback did not destroy the journey. It refined it. When effort remains honest and visible, support appears quietly. When excuses disappear, cooperation increases. Life does not reward those who avoid struggle. Life responds to those who stay. When you refuse to quit, life slowly cooperates. The results did not arrive with celebration or sudden change. They arrived quietly, almost unnoticed at first. One day, Noah looked around and realized that life no longer felt fragile. The work was steady. The routine was strong. The foundation was real. What once required constant fear and effort now moved with structure and confidence. The success was not perfect, but it was stable. Not fast, but sustainable. More importantly, Noah was no longer the same person who once stood under the night sky, wondering where to begin. Skills had been earned. Discipline had been built. Perspective had matured. The greatest transformation was not external. It was internal. Noah had learned to respect time, effort, and process. Shortcuts no longer looked attractive. Excuses no longer felt comforting. The desire for quick rewards had been replaced by patience and clarity. Growth was no longer rushed. Growth was trusted. Looking back, every stage of the journey made sense. Dreams demanded daily payment, not occasional motivation. Small actions repeated every day had created momentum where hope alone could not. Failure had acted as tuition, not punishment. Each mistake had taught something valuable, shaping judgment and skill. Respect had not been given freely. It had been earned through visible effort, consistency, and responsibility. And persistence had attracted support, not because help was owed, but because effort inspired belief. Nothing was free. Not knowledge. Not trust. Not opportunity. Not growth. But everything had become possible. The journey proved one simple truth. Success does not belong to the loudest dreamers or the fastest starters. Success belongs to those willing to pay the price when no one is watching. To those who continue when progress feels slow. To those who learn instead of quitting. To those who show up again after failure. This story is not only about Noah. It is about anyone standing at the beginning of a difficult path. Anyone carrying a dream while facing pressure, doubt, or limited resources. The lesson remains the same. You do not need perfect conditions. You need commitment. You do not need constant motivation. You need discipline. Nothing is free, but everything is possible when effort becomes a habit. Take a moment to reflect. What dream are you willing to pay for? Share it in the comments. Like this story if it inspired you to keep going even when the journey feels slow. And subscribe to Inspire English Stories to continue learning English through powerful stories about growth, resilience, and real-life success. Because the price is real, but so is the reward.